Okay guys, what I'm going to do here today is do a brake pad change on a 2013 Kia Sorento LX. It's my wife's car, and I got to be honest, I've never done a brake job before. I am a decent, somewhat of a handy guy, but I've never done a brake job before. When I looked around online, I couldn't find much of anything on how to do it, so I figured I'd make a video. I've already done the driver's side. It's actually a relatively easy job, so I decided to go ahead and film the passenger side, just in case there's anybody else out there who has never done one and looking to do one themselves. I can tell you it's going to save you a lot of money. My wife had her Kia down here at our local Kia dealership today. There was an open recall on it, and they ended up calling after the recall was taken care of. They called my wife and said they wanted $375 to do the brake job, just the front brakes on the car. And again, I've never done a brake job before, but I knew that was absolutely ridiculously overpriced. So I decided to tell her to tell them to pretty much shove it. And I figured there's no better time than right now to learn how to do it. So anyway, I'm going to jump right into it. I'm going to stop the video right now. Basically, all I'm going to do right now is I have not even jacked up the passenger side of the car yet. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we'll pick up. As soon as I have it jacked up, I'm ready to go. Okay, guys, we got the car all jacked up. Obviously, we want everybody to be safe. Make sure you have a nice flat, level surface to be dealing with here. I'm going to go ahead and show you what we're going to be using today. Really, as I mentioned, this is a relatively easy job. Don't need a whole lot of tools. Basically, all I need is, I'll turn it around here and show you what the tools we're going to be using. All we have is the brake pads, of course, which I'll show you the box, the kind that I'm using. Really good reviews online. When I put them on the driver's side, as I mentioned, went on really well. Nice tight fit. They look good, they feel good, so pretty good brake pad. Socket, 14 millimeter socket there. I'll show you what that's used for. You need a nice big wrench like this. That's going to be used to decompress the piston. Again, I'll show it in the video what I mean by that, but you definitely need something, a nice big sturdy wrench like this towards the end of the job, which again we'll go into more detail. A hammer, flathead screwdriver, and that's about it. So let me go ahead and show you the brake pads that I'm using. These here are the Wherever Platinum Series premium ceramic brake pads. Got them at my local Advanced Auto Parts. Had a pretty sweet deal on them, actually. I had a 25% off code. They were regular like 54, 55 bucks, something like that. I ended up getting them for like 45 after tax and everything. So pretty good deal, and comes with the two pairs for the front brakes. Also comes with the brackets, which I will show you here. These are the little brackets, which I'll show you exactly what they're for and where they go, because I was actually a little bit confused at first when I did the driver's side on this piece here. So show you exactly where they go. And then, of course, the grease that's going to go on the bracket that I just showed you. So that's basically everything you're going to need to do the job. So I'm going to go ahead and clip the GoPro up here, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Hopefully this will come out well. Not only is this my first brake job, this is actually the first video I'm making with my GoPro. So hopefully it comes out good, and somebody will get some use out of this video here. So basically all we're going to start with is we have to remove the brake caliper. So I'm going to grab my 14 millimeter wrench, and this is as simple as two of the 14 millimeter bolts. They're right back here. Hopefully this is coming out good on the video. There's one here, and then one down bottom. You can't miss them. So we're just going to go ahead and take those off. Now they do come off relatively easy. Again, this is a 2013, not too old of a car. They shouldn't be. I've heard guys say that they can be a little bit tight on older cars once they get more rust and everything on them, but on my wife's car, they're coming off pretty easily. So there we go. And again, they're just two 14mm bolts there. So once we take those off, we're done with the 14mm wrench. Now this part, this piece here, you're gonna probably have to shimmy it a little bit. It can be on there kind of tight. The driver's side wasn't too bad, but basically you're just gonna grab it, shimmy it a little bit, and should come off somewhat easily for you there. There we go. Now this part here, this is pretty important here. I've heard a lot of guys use a bungee. They'll bungee it to this. Basically, what I'm going to get at here is you don't want to put a lot of, you don't want to lay this down. And basically, this is connected to your brake line here. You don't want to lay this down and put any tension on that line. So I basically, when I did the driver's side, I just set it just like that. Just be very careful. If it falls, you're going to possibly bust your brake line there. So just be very careful with that part. I mean, again, I just set it there. It's pretty sturdy on there. You're really going to have to jar the car to make that fall. But I just wanted to make that point there because if you do drop that, this is it's pretty heavy there. So if you drop it down, it's gonna break that line. All right, next step. Basically, your pads are right here, and here. So we're just gonna grab. These are a little tight. When I did it on the driver's side, I had to use the screwdriver. This is where the screwdriver is going to come into handy, and the hammer. I use the screwdriver almost like a chisel because these the pads are on there pretty tight. So I'm going to grab my screwdriver and hammer, and we'll pop those off. Okay. So basically, you just want to find where the pad is. Oh no, this one's actually coming off very easily. Driver's side definitely wasn't that easy. That's it. There's your pad. As you can see, I mean, it's not in terrible shape. It's getting kind of low there, but sometimes what you'll see is actually on the driver's side, again, when I did it a few minutes ago, the outer brake pad looked like this, where you could, you still have some wear on. You could still, doesn't necessarily need to be changed just yet, but we'll see what this inner one looks like when I pop this off, because on the driver's side, when I took the inner one off, the inner one was just about flat as can be. Right down to, it was almost metal on metal. So sometimes you'll get that where your one pad will wear off or wear down a little bit quicker than the other side. Now these rotors, really honestly, I should be changing these rotors as well. And you know what, I believe I'm going to be doing that actually in the very near future. You'll see this rust here. Some guys will tell you that's somewhat normal. Rotors really, from what I hear, and I did actually watch a video on the rotors as well, they're actually not that hard to change either. So I'm going to be doing that in the very near future. Maybe I'll make a video on that as well. But all right, so this back pad here, this is being a little bit more stubborn. So this is where you're going to need the. There we go. It's nice and light, pops off there. And again, you can see that this pad is pretty worn down. That's ready to be changed. That's just about shot there. So, all right. So there's the old pads. We'll get them out of the way. Now again, these rotors. Yeah, these rotors are ready to be changed. I really should be doing them in this video. But I'll be making another video in the very, very near future to show how to do these rotors. Now those little clips that I showed you, they're right here and right here. So we're going to change them as well. Again, just take your screwdriver and just kind of pry it off there. You'll see they look exactly like the new clean ones that I showed you. just a minute ago. So we'll set these aside. They are garbage. These pry off relatively easily. They just kind of pop right off, really. They don't give you much of a problem at all. Now, when you're doing this, you may already know this, but basically what you want to look for in the rotor, again, this rust here, I mean, I don't know. I'm going to have to look into that and see if I believe this should be changed when it's rusted like this. The big thing you want to look for is if your brake pads get down to where it is metal on metal, where the pads press on the rotor, you'll get grooves in the rotor, the flat surface. This is the rotor, this disc here. You'll get grooves in this from the metal on metal grinding. Check that. Just kind of run your finger, you know, along it just to make sure this is smooth as can be. So the where the brake actually hits the rotor is good on the rotors here still. If you did feel any grooves in this flat surface, you would definitely want to change the rotor. That's never a good thing. So again, I do believe these should be changed because of the rust on the rim, but flat surface is nice and smooth. So I'm going to go ahead and put the new brake pads on here anyway. And again, I have a feeling I'm going to be changing these rotors in the very near future. So that's that. Basically, we're ready to put the new clips on. I'll show you where the grease goes on them, and then pop the new brake pads on. Okay, so basically, what we're going to do right now is we're going to take these brand new clips that I showed you just a couple minutes ago, and they are going to they only go on one way, so you can't really screw this part up. You'll see, oops, sorry about that. You'll see on the back side there's grooves here. Those two grooves right there are going to slide up underneath the rim here, so you'll just kind of pop those two up underneath there, and then you'll kind of just basically just squeeze it on there, and you'll feel it really kind of pop into place there. And make sure it's on there nice and tight, because you're going to want that to be nice and tight, because when you go to put the new pads in, that was actually probably one of the hardest parts for me on the driver's side, because it's such a snug fit when you go to slide that new pad in. You really want these clips to be where they should be. It's nice and snug, because it's going to make your life a little bit easier. So again, two clips on the back side there. Just going to slide it up underneath here. Oops. You know what? There might be. Yeah, that's what I thought. There was a little bit of the rust that was flaking off there. Again, gonna have to change these rotors, but that was getting in the way there. Let's see, that should go on a little bit easier now. There we go. And again, you'll feel it kind of snap into place there. So you'll know when that piece is sitting in there like it should be. All right. So now that the two new clips are in, you're gonna take your little pack of grease that comes with in the brake in the box there. Just take a little dab on there, and you're gonna put it right in here in these bottom grooves, because that's where your brake pads are gonna slide into. So you want it to be a little on the slick side, because again, it is a very tight fit, and it was not fun trying to get that in there on the driver's side. Again, that was probably one of the harder parts about this whole job, was getting the new pads into place. So just gonna grease these up like so. And by the way, guys, if any experienced mechanics or anything are watching this video, feel free to leave any recommendations or comments. I'm certainly not claiming to be a pro by any means. Again, this is my very first brake job that I've ever done on any car. I have a 2014 Toyota Tundra. I've never done a brake job on that or any other car that I've ever owned. So don't claim to be a pro by any means. The only reason I'm even making this video is because, again, when I looked to try to kind of teach myself on how to do this, I didn't find much in the lines of doing this on a Sorento. So again, that's the only reason I'm really making this video. Hopefully it'll help somebody out one of these days, but don't claim to be a pro by any means. So if I'm doing something wrong or if anybody has any recommendations, feel free to leave it in the comment section, and trust me, you won't hurt my feelings. I'm married 10 years, so you'd have to be pretty rotten to hurt my feelings. Anyway, that's greased up, ready to go. So now we're going to grab the new pads and slide them into place. I'll show you how that goes. Okay guys, 2 new pads here. One thing I forgot to show you when I took the inner pad off, I'll show you right now. You want to make sure, you'll see when you take a set of the new pads, one has this little silver clip on it, I guess if you want to call it that. One does not. The one with the clip is going to be the inner one, and that clip is going to go on there like that. I'm sorry, forgive me. Again, first brake job. That clip, when you put the pad on, you want that clip to be on the bottom facing out, obviously, because this is the actual pad part that needs to go up against the rotor. So I just wanted to point that out. Make sure you pay attention to that when you're putting the new pads on. The inner pad is the one that has the clip on it, and it should be in this position here on the bottom facing in towards the car. So that's how that goes there. So the other thing, when you this is the old inner pad. This has a clip on it. You'll see it's just clipped on the back. That's the pad. It's just clipped on the, I'm sorry, hopefully you can see this. This is the inner pad again, the old one that was on there. When you take it off, it has this silver flat metal piece. I believe, I could be wrong on this, and again, feel free to correct me if I am wrong. I believe this is to help with like noise reduction and vibration. You want to take that off the old pad, and of course it's going to be a little dirty and a little rusty, but you want to take the new pad, and you'll see the new pad has these two little silver spots on the back there. It's going to line up with those 2 holes that you see in this piece here. So basically you're just going to kind of line it up, and hopefully you can see this on the video. You're just going to pop it on there, and again, you'll feel that pop into place. You'll know where it needs to be. So again, make sure you put that on the new pad. I believe it's used for noise reduction and for vibration, basically. So if I'm wrong, feel free to correct me, but I believe that's what it's for. Okay, this is the fun part. Hopefully this goes a little smoother than the driver's side. So basically, once you have that clip on there, you're ready to install the new pad. You pretty much have to, the grooves on those clips, those metal clips, you'll see the grooves where we put the grease. That's where, here, I'll take the outer pad and show you that one first. That's where these tabs on the pad, those tabs are going to slide into where we put the grease. So basically, again, it's not always the easiest. It wasn't easy on the driver's side, but basically you're just going to line those up and just push it into place there. Once you have it lined up, on the driver's side, I just kind of very lightly tapped it with a hammer. Again, I'm not really sure if this is the best idea. If anybody is watching this video who knows, feel free to comment. But this is really the only way that I could get these on And again, you could obviously tell I'm not, you know, hitting that hard by any means. Just kind of lightly tapping it to get the pad on there up against the rotor. So the inner one was definitely harder on the driver's side. So let's see how this goes here. Again, basically just want to line up the tabs here. And slide it into place, hopefully. And this one's going to give us some trouble, just like the driver's side did. Oh, there we go. That was actually, believe it or not, much easier than the driver's side was. I'm just going to pop my face back there real quick just to make sure we got it in the grooves where it needs to be. Looks good. Okay. I'm just going to give it a couple more just light taps just to make sure they're in there where they need to be. Looks good. Now, next step is I'm going to show you what we need that big, the big wrench for that I showed you when I was explaining the tools to you, the tools that we were going to need. This piece right here, this is the piece that basically puts the pressure on the brake pads, of course, to push on the rotor to stop the car. So if you try to put this back on here right now, it's not going to go. And the reason being is, if you think about it, the old pads were thinner because they were worn down. So this piece was pushing in to compress the pads. Now that we have thicker pads on here, we need that piece to push in. You need a pretty heavy duty wrench to do that. So I'm going to grab my wrench and I'll show you what I mean. You're basically going to want to grab it just like this. And you have to squeeze pretty good. You got to put some elbow grease into this to compress that. I don't know if you can see that on the video, but that's compressing in. There we go. There we go. Okay. Now, I don't know. Hopefully that came out on the video so you know exactly what I'm talking about. But basically, that rim is now pushed in. And again, this one actually was easier than the driver's side. I don't know why, but that went in pretty easily. The driver's side, I really had to squeeze pretty good to get that to go in. I couldn't even get it to go at first. So just want to make sure that's compressed in there. Now, basically, all you want to do is flip this back. Oh, now make sure you don't twist that brake line. I almost twisted it the wrong way. Make sure that brake line is nice and straight. There's no twists in it or kinks in it. And basically all you're going to do is put this back on. Now, the only other thing I'll show you, where those two bolts, the very first bolts that we took out, they compress in. So when you go to put this on here, you may actually have to compress them to get it to line back up. So I'm just going to pop this on here. Again, I'm hoping this comes out good on the GoPro here. The GoPro is brand new to me as well. So my first brake job and my first video here with the GoPro. Just so you know, if anybody cares, this is being shot on a GoPro Hero 4 Silver at the 1440/48. That's the resolution that we're shooting this on. So just in case anybody cares. I know you probably don't, but okay. So then we're just going to take our two bolts here, line them up, and screw them back on here. There we go. Now, the other thing I want to mention before I forget, it's very important to
obviously you want to test the pad. Anytime you do any kind of job like this, you want to test it before you go jumping on the highway or anything like that. But when you first get in the car after you do this, what you'll notice is the first couple times you step on your brake pedal, it's going to feel very loose. You're not going to feel that pressure that you usually feel. So make sure, you know, again, before you go driving even down the street, what I would tell you to do is turn the car on, press the brake pedal just a couple times before you even take it out of park, and you'll see exactly what I mean when you do that. Basically, again, when the first couple times you press on that brake pedal, you're not going to feel much resistance at all. But then you'll feel the resistance kind of build back up, and then you'll be good to go. Once again, press it 3, 4, 5 times until you feel the brake get nice and firm again. And basically that's, I believe, is just building up the pressure back into the line. Again, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty certain that's what's happening. But I just wanted to point that out because I didn't want anybody getting in their car and, you know, pulling out of their parking spot and not realizing that their brakes would do that at first. So I'm going to grab my 14mm wrench here. Tighten these bolts back up. And you want to make them nice and snug, obviously. You know, you don't have to absolutely kill it, but you want to make it nice and snug. Okay. Okay, guys. That's pretty much all there is to it. I'm gonna mount the wheel back on here and get the car jack down. Again, you know, hopefully this video will help somebody out. It will save you a lot of money. I hate to throw Kia under the bus here, but when they told my wife that they wanted $375 to you know, to just for the front job here, that's absolutely ridiculous. Now, the one thing I will say is they did say, they told us it was only for the pads. Maybe, you know, they just left out, maybe they were going to do the rotors as well. But even still, I priced those brakes, the ones that I showed you that we're using, and rotors. I can get them both, brakes and rotors, for the front set, driver side and passenger side. Total for the brakes and rotors, I priced them. I can get them for roughly $150, $160 through my local Advanced Auto Parts. I'm still saving well over $200 by doing this myself. So hopefully this video will help you guys out. Any questions, feel free to comment below. And again, as I mentioned before, any recommendations or anything I can do differently that would make it even easier. It is a relatively easy job, as you can see. But any recommendations, comments, questions, concerns, anything, feel free to comment below. Take it easy on me, please. My first video. Hopefully it'll help somebody. Thanks for watching, guys.